Why does the world hate black women so much?
White women hair silky, black women nappy wigs falling all off at the club.
Now, they may want to tan, they may go to the sun parlor, but they don't want to be permanently tan.
I don't date black women.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Well, it's no coincidence the world has been constructed in that way because when the societal hierarchy was created, it was white men at the top, white women, people of color, and then black people, black men. Even in the sentence black people, that was in reference to black men. Black women were not even on that hierarchy. We see how this issue plays out today, especially in feminist circles. Us black women don't really fit into the whole feminism chat because we have our own issues that we need to deal with. Like, for example, fighting for our personhood before we can even think about fighting for our womanhood. And even when a lot of feminist movements started, black women were left out of that. And it was no coincidence because hello, we weren't even seen as human. We weren't even seen as human. So sorry, I thought this video was forming in slow motion. But anyways, as black women, we are constantly fighting for our personhood before we could even fight for our womanhood. I would recommend that people read Oyewumi Onyerenke. Guys, please excuse my pronunciation, but she has some really great work when it comes to feminism, specifically like black feminism or African feminism rather. But anyway, another point that I wanted to make was that, like, as black women, we are constantly having to change parts of ourselves to be deemed as acceptable and in order to be seen. I'll give an example. When it comes to aesthetics, usually our beauty is determined by our proximity to whiteness. The lighter that you look, the more attractive you are perceived as, or the more your hair looks like, European or, wavy, whatever, then that is you move up the social ladder in terms of aesthetics. And you know in that, we by conforming to that, and I'm talking to myself here as well, by playing that game, we are perpetuating this idea of European supremacy when it comes to standards and ways of being. We as black women have been conditioned into thinking that our personhood is not it's not acceptable, it's not recognized, you know even the way we look and our hair, it's not it's deemed as inferior. Even our own indigenous knowledge systems, there's this really great reading by this lady or person named June Bam called feminism ooh, feminism side, and basically how large epistemicide has been happening in terms of our own indigenous knowledge systems as Africans. And she links this to plants and our indigenous knowledge when it comes to plants, and how that has been erased, and how that's linked to the erasure of our history and way of being. Wait, before we move forward, I was rewatching the footage, and there was something that I actually wanted to add. Firstly, us black women are seen as nature. What does nature and black women have in common? We are both exploited by the system. Nature, well, according to your American logic, nature was never deemed as something to be recognized as an equal. it was rather seen as a means to an end, something to capitalize on, especially land, something to capitalize on, something to take advantage of in order to progress. But anything that was seen as nature was deemed as inferior. We can see this in, I forgot the name of this guy, but he was the one that made that like figure of black people, or rather black men, and then comparing it to monkeys, like the shapes of our heads, and basically saying that, we have smaller brains and whatever. I forgot the name of the guy. I'll put it in the description somewhere. But we all learned this in history, right? Right. But anyways, let me see my train of thought here. We as black people have been associated with being closer to nature, and nature, according to the Euro American logic, is seen as inferior and, you know, unintelligible. So therefore, as black women, we are seen as, unintelligible, something to be controlled, something as seen as a means to an end, and not something to be deemed as an equal. Whereas if you look into a lot of African knowledge systems, nature is seen as something to be respected, and something that is like, as humans, we are in a symbiotic relationship with nature. And unfortunately, that history has been partially, mostly erased, and we have been conditioned to see nature as something that is unintelligible, if you get me, and not worthy of respect. And that has obviously caused confusion in our own identity as Africans. Our identities are closely linked, has been historically linked with nature within our own indigenous systems. But according to the Euro American logic, yes, our identity has been closely related to nature, but not in a way that empowers us, in a way that makes us seem as we are like unintelligible, because nature itself, according to the European lens, is seen as inferior and something to be exploited. So because us women were not seen on that hierarchy, we were then not seen on the hierarchy, but not even on that hierarchy, that social hierarchy, we were then automatically booted to being part of nature. When it comes to this thing of having to assimilate to whiteness in order to be seen and recognized as human, I would even extend this to like black men. If you ask a black man what he wants, most of the things is associated with being like the white man. We are all conditioned into being like the white man, as the white man has been placed at the top of the social hierarchy. So even if you ask a black man what he wants, most of it is what? Wealth accumulation, women, rather the controlling of women, being the head of the house, which has to do with control. It doesn't really have to do with care, but more control thing. And I mean this in the European sense. And domination, domineering, I would link this to the high amounts of gender-based violence within South Africa, and how that is linked to this fetishization of the white man by the black man, wanting to domineer, wanting to basically do what the white man did to them, but onto their own people, be it women, be it foreigners, be it their own black men. And it could be through physical violence, could be through systemic violence. I mean, I'd say the ANC is a perfect example of this, exploiting their own people for their own gain, to accumulate wealth, to accumulate capital, just like the white man did. But anyways, going back to black women, I feel like we need to constantly question where our desires come from, the things that we aspire to be like, the people who we aspire to be, the things that we want in this life. where do they come from? Where do these desires stem from? You know, even with the way that we look, a lot of us Black women are not even comfortable stepping outside in our natural hair. That's not something that is inherent. That is because we've been conditioned to hate ourselves. As Black women, we've been conditioned to hate every single aspect of ourselves, our skin color, our hair, the way that we speak. That's why the more you move up the social ladder, the more you see Black women changing parts of themselves in order to be more digestible for their white counterparts or white peers, be it in the way that they speak, be it changing their hair, like straightening their hair, or wearing more wigs, um, being less loud, like being more quiet, um, changing your accent, um, the way that you dress in a more conservative way because that's deemed as, professional. Even the word professional wear, when you Google that, what are the images that pop up? Even in schools, Black girls being told that they can't wear their natural hair out without it being tied up or controlled. Where do you think that stems from? The beauty standards that we have today, where do you think that stems from? And that's why I constantly say, like, as Black women, we in order to sort of resist that, we need to question where our beliefs come from, where our desires come from, and ask ourselves, am I doing this because I'm trying to fit in this mold to be more acceptable and digestible, or is it because I feel confident in this? And my takeaway is that, like, Black women must just do whatever makes them feel comfortable, but to also question what makes them feel comfortable and why it makes them feel comfortable, also look into our own indigenous knowledge systems, our own indigenous ways of being outside of the Euro-American construct of supremacy, right? And I know this video is a bit all over the place. I honestly could have made a more like scripted version of this video and make it like super, have infographics and things like that, and have facts and readings. But right now at this stage, I just want my videos to be just natural, like almost podcast like, and just speak from the top of my head, because that for me feels more natural. But I mean, I could do the over the top, but I prefer this type of I prefer these type of videos. But the reason why the world hates Black women is because, number one, the world has been conditioned into that, and because we were never recognized as people, and I don't think we ever will be. And I don't mean this in like a pessimistic way, but I think it's better for us to wake up and realize that, instead of trying to constantly play the game and change parts of ourselves to be deemed as more acceptable. But do you see how it's not to be accepted, but rather to be deemed as more acceptable, because we will never be truly accepted. So we need to just accept ourselves and not accept what the world tells us what to be or how we should be. So if you want to be the loud Black woman, like, be that. Like, if you want to go to school or whatever corporate space or whatever institution with your hair natural and not combed and kept, do that. Like, just do whatever makes you feel happy and stop listening to Black men. My goodness. Here's another thing. Black men are not here to save us, okay? They don't know what they want themselves.
Relationships, there are heartbreakers, deal breakers, red flags. What's something you wouldn't tolerate in a relationship?
I don't date Black women.
Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with a deal breaker. So can you focus on qualities, not color, but qualities you don't like?
Okay, well, I don't like a loud woman.
Okay.
White women are quiet. I like nice hair. Well, I could rub my fingers through it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
White women, hair silky. Black women, nappy wigs falling all off at the club. You know what I mean? Dry.
Disrespectful. Okay, that's enough. I'm gonna ask you to leave if you can't be respectful.
Well,
They're trying to save themselves from themselves. They're not even trying. They need to save themselves from themselves first. And I feel like, as Black women, like, if we ever want to progress, we need to release ourselves from the chokehold of male validation, and especially validation from Black men. leave black men alone. They don't know what they want, okay? Like they are digging a grave for themselves, okay? So if you're chasing validation from black men, you are jumping into that grave as well. So liberate yourself, liberate your mind. I don't know if this is the right thing. Emancipate your mind. Like, yeah, man, just be critical of everything. Be critical of your own thoughts. Be critical in the way that you choose to show up in the world, who you want to show up as, and question the origin of that version of who you want to show up as, if you get me. I want to make a separate video about decolonization when I have the time, but that video I'll actually put in effort. I'll have the infographics, the readings, everything, because I feel like that deserves, not to say that this video doesn't deserve a proper breakdown, but when it comes to anything decolonization, you need, and plus I really enjoy that topic. But yeah, with this video I just wanted it to be natural. Bitch, y'all black women constantly question everything and leave these niggas alone, okay? The quicker you realize that we were never meant to be included, the easier it will be. It'll be painful when you realize this, but it's better that way, so that you are able to think beyond what society tells you to think. Because even in the way that we think, we are conditioned to think in a certain way. Yeah, I think I'll end it here. There's nothing much, or rather nothing else that I really want to say, but yeah. But anyways, guys, drink water, read. I haven't been able to make videos lately because I've been busy with school. Today's the last day of VAC, and I was like, oh wait, I haven't made a video yet. So yeah, guys, enjoy life. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.